What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be washing my 2025 SURRON ULTRA BE because I've been taking this thing to our MX track a lot and it got pretty dirty. And I can also show you this dedicated washing spot we have in our new studio for the bikes. It's pretty cool. But most importantly, I wanna do a comparison video today about these two bikes, the 2025 TALARIA Komodo and the 2025 SURRON ULTRA BE. Probably two of the hottest bikes this year. And I've been getting a lot of comments and DMs from people asking me about the features and the pricing, the availability, a lot of stuff. I've been holding off on commenting because honestly, I didn't have that much experience on either bike yet. But now after a few solid months, I think I'm ready to do it. So that's what we're gonna do in today's video. Let's do it. I always use mild dishwashing detergent whenever I wash my bikes. I think that's enough. The power of the two bikes is not really close. The Komodo kills the Ultra Bee at 32 kilowatt. And even the Ultra Bee, it has that turbo button just for short bursts. And I really don't like that, you know? I want 21 kilowatts all the time, not just for a short time. So in terms of power, the Komodo easily beats it. We use this agricultural sprayer for like fixing jumps and stuff in our e-bike park that we made under the bridge. But I also like to use it for washing the bikes because I can really control the spray. Because you don't want to use too much of a spray when you're washing the e-bikes. You don't want too much water splashing all over the place. And the charge on this thing lasts a long time. So it's just cleaner and easier to use. And for sure, before I spray any water on this bike, we're going to remove the battery. And also I'm going to wrap some plastic around the main connector. It's definitely a lot easier to remove the battery on this Ultra Bee than the Komodo, right? Check this out. You can see here, the Komodo battery is actually screwed down to the bike. And that's actually one of the things I don't like about the Komodo is that the battery is screwed down. It does make it more secure, but it's a bit more of a hassle to remove it. You can see the charging port is right here on top of the battery. It also makes it a little more tricky to charge it because you have to remove the seat and then flip this up to connect the charger. So when I'm charging the bikes and the cars, which I do often, it's a bit harder to do it on the Komodo. And in contrast, the Ultra Bee has the side charging port. Don't need to remove the seat or the lid. And to me, that's a lot better, especially when I'm charging them in the cars. So let's get these wrapped up in plastic. Nice and tight with this removable zip so I can make sure these connectors don't get wet. Get it a little bit tight. The Ultra Bee came with 19 front, 18 rear, but the tires weren't that good. The knobbies are small. The Komodo comes with an 18-21 wheel setup, which I liked a lot better. And that's kind of nice for trail riding when you're running over logs and stuff, having that 21-inch front wheel. I definitely like it better than 19. But the knobbies on both bikes weren't so great. So of course I upgraded the tires on both of my bikes. This bike has the IRC Vulcan Duro and the Komodo has the Maxxis Max Cross IT. The tire size is actually identical on both bikes. 100, 118 in the back and 80, 121 in the front. And now both bikes have amazing traction. Those Max Cross are a little bit more knobbier than these, but for the most part, both wheel and tire combos are great. And for the wheels on the Ultra Bee, I have a custom set of Flow wheels, which I love. I have them on my ERIDE Pro too. Great strong wheels. Never had a problem with them. 2.15 in the back and 1.6 in the front. The Komodo wheels are just stock. I just put beefier tires and also a rim lock on the back. Now both bikes have really excellent traction. Like before, when I'd hit the throttle before I'd go up a ramp at our MX track, I would get a lot of wheel spin with those stock tires, but now it just digs in. It tears the track up more for sure, I notice. These tires definitely eat it up, but I'm putting the power down to the ground and that's all that matters. The Ultra Bee actually has more space for a bigger tire. So I'm probably gonna put a bigger tire on the back than the one that's on now. I tried to put a 110 on this Komodo, but it was too tricky. It gets really tight up front here in front of the swing arm. So if you want to put bigger than a 100 tire on the back of the Komodo, I definitely recommend going with like a 90 profile or less. Otherwise, it probably won't fit. Both of these bikes have a 520 chain on them. Speaking of chain, I need to tighten this for sure. This sprocket is a 50 tooth, but I put it on. The stock Ultra Bee sprocket was 46 tooth, and the Komodo comes with a 53 tooth. So that's probably going to make it feel a lot more punchier. Another really cool thing about the SURRON ULTRA BE is that you can actually fit the charger here underneath the seat. So you can take the charger with you when you go on rides. It also has this toolkit that you can keep here under the seat. That's pretty cool too. In terms of foot pegs, I'd say definitely the Komodo ones are better. They have nice big teeth on them. You can get really good grip. And the Ultra Bee came with some generic looking pegs that come on most of the e-bikes that you see. I changed mine to these Warp 9s because I didn't like them. But the Komodo actually still has the stock pegs on it. I jump a lot on it, and actually I get really good grip. Tore the hell out of my shoes because of those teeth on that Komodo. So I definitely say the Komodo wins on stock pegs. Both bikes have a range around 72 miles, but that's not really getting on it, like maybe around 30 miles per hour. The battery on the Komodo's 97 volt, 45 amp hour. The battery on the Ultra Bee is 74 volt, 60 amp hour. And I can say for sure that thing is a lot heavier. It's around 58 pounds, but the Ultra Bee battery I think is in the 40s. You can tell it's much lighter when you carry it. And I've noticed that that actually has an impact on how the bike behaves in the air. I noticed that the Ultra Bee tends to dive down a little bit more when I'm in the air off a really big jump than the Komodo. The Komodo is a little bit more stable. Like I have to use a lot of body English. I have to get up over the bars to really get it to tip down when I want to land. But the Ultra Bee, I don't have to do that. I can just keep like a neutral riding position and just blast the jump. And the bike just naturally wants to dive forward. So I started looking at the two bikes structurally, trying to figure out why maybe they're like that, because you can really feel it. When I bounce back and forth between both of these bikes at the track, I can feel it. Maybe because the Komodo battery is a lot heavier and bigger, 97 volt. The way that the frame is designed, it has the battery a little bit more set back in the frame with relation to the pegs than the Ultra Bee. It makes the TALARIA Komodo feel slightly more balanced in the air compared to the Ultra Bee, but it's not that huge of a difference. And if I just ride either bike for a long time, I can get used to either one. For me personally, the Komodo feels a bit more stable in the air, and probably some of that is due to just the increased weight. It's around 216 pounds, but the Ultra Bee is 195 pounds. The SURRON Ultra Bee has a belt and a reduction drive, just like my Light BX, but this one is a carbon fiber belt, and also they have tungsten carbide coated pulleys for added strength. I think they tried their best to make it as strong as possible, but there's still always going to be that chance that it can break while you're out on the trail. So honestly, I think the Komodo is a little bit better with the gearbox because it's a little more peace of mind, but you do have to do regular maintenance on it. At 185 miles, I had to do the break-in oil change. And then like every 600 miles after that, you need to change the oil. Obviously, it's not a fair comparison to compare a SIRRIS modded Ultra Bee to the stock suspension on the Komodo. But the stock suspension on the Komodo is actually pretty good. The front fork has 250 millimeters of travel, and the rear has, I think, 90. When you compare that to the stock Ultra Bee, the stock Ultra Bee rear shock is around 84 millimeters of travel, and the front fork is only 239. In comparison, this SIRRIS EBMX Tune front fork has 260 millimeters of travel. And I actually had to tune it all the way down on the compression because it was too stiff. So in my opinion, probably the Komodo suspension, stock for stock, is better than the Ultra Bees. That thing feels pretty good going over like 25 to 35 foot jumps and doesn't really bottom out. In terms of braking, the Ultra Bee definitely has the Komodo beat. I love the Ultra Bee brakes. They're really, really strong. No problem to just use one finger. But the Komodo brakes feel a bit more spongy. And the Ultra Bee has 240 millimeter rotors while the Komodo uses 220. If there's like one thing I could change about the Komodo, it'd definitely be the brakes. Generally, when I wash my e-bikes, I really try not to take the water any higher than this area. And I definitely don't want to get it anywhere near any of the display or the controls. And I'll show you how I clean that in a bit. Just a little bit of water on the front of the controller and the bash guard, but not too much. I don't really want to get the motor too wet. Now you definitely want to use an air compressor to get rid of any water. You're going to have a lot trapped in many areas of the bike. You don't want to cause any unnecessary corrosion. Places like all in here and here, you really want to get all the water out. Let's take this plastic bag off. Now when I want to clean the controls on the bike, I will just use spray alcohol. That way I don't risk damage shorting anything. I will never spray water up here near the bars. And this does a really good job anyways. There's no need. This Ultra Bee features a larger display than the Komodo. I kind of like that. The Komodo uses that tiny little egg rider and I can't see anything on that thing. I can't wait to actually change the controller on that bike so I can get a much larger display. And the Ultra Bee has a headlight with a high and a low beam has a horn. It has a ready switch, just like the Komodo. The Komodo has the kill switch, but to be honest, I don't think you really need that. Both bikes have fully adjustable regen settings, which is nice for sure. You can use that as a brake for wheelies. In terms of programmability, like on the torque curve or the throttle, I'd say the Ultra Bee probably has the Komodo beat just a little bit because it has multiple throttle settings. On the Komodo, the torque ramps are automatic and tied directly to the speed mode that you select. It also has traction control settings, just like the Ultra Bee. And of course, on both bikes, you can toggle the drive modes easily on the control switches. Looks great. And in terms of like looks and styling, I think it's pretty obvious that the Komodo is like really edgy and angular, a little bit more aggressive looking, but the frame on this Komodo is more narrow than on the Ultra Bee. And that actually makes the seat a lot more comfortable on the Ultra Bee because the seat is like the cap of the frame, so it's a little bit wider. It's really obvious to see that the Ultra Bee seat is going to be way more comfortable than this. Sometimes when I ride the Komodo for over an hour on the track, it will feel like I'm riding on the frame. For short rides, it's actually not that bad. If I'm going to go trail riding for a long time, or I'm going to be riding the track a lot during the day, I would rather be sitting on this bike. For sure, the Ultra Bee wins in terms of comfort. So hopefully the things we discussed in this video can help you know more about the differences between these two bikes. Ultimately, the bike that you decide to buy really depends on your individual riding needs. I love both bikes. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and you can always mod something that you don't like about a bike. So I think that's gonna do it for this Ultra Bee and Komodo comparison video. See you guys in the next one. Peace.